Hello Capricorn friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Capricorn May 2021 Astrology Must Knows Horoscope Report. May brings us right into the heat of eclipse season, and eclipse season always brings dramatic changes and brilliant new beginnings and some very big endings. So you might be categorized in there of having those experiences. The odds are much increased. We are going to go into all of that. I'm going to give you the structure of what we're going to cover in this video, so that you can be the most prepared as possible to make the most of all the starry opportunities. First, we're going to talk about what there is to celebrate for Capricorns this month specifically. Then we're going to talk about what things to watch out for. We're also going to talk about how to make lemonade in the event that there are challenges, and some general life strategies for Capricorns on how to make the most of the opportunities that come to you and make your life flow much better with more ease and grace. I know ease is not necessarily the thing that Capricorns tend to experience, but I am on a mission to help you have more ease. Having so many Capricorn placements myself and having had great success in making my life easier, I am very excited to help you over time with these strategies to help you have the same experience. We're also going to talk about understanding eclipses and eclipse cycles, and when this last Sagittarius of Gemini eclipse cycle happened, the years in the past, and when it started again, and what things are specific to this cycle that we are experiencing in general and that you might experience. And we're also going to, at the end of the video, talk about the areas of life that will be accentuated for you from this May 26th lunar eclipse at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. Okay, so you can see, as usual, we have a lot to cover. Astrology is a very complex science and art, and I try to bring as many of the beautiful layers of complexity into my readings as possible while not overwhelming you. I have had many people say that sometimes they need to or like to listen to the videos more than once to take everything in. And for those of you who think I talk fast, or if English is not your first language, know that YouTube has an option to slow the video down. So you can actually, so no, I cannot slow down talking, but you can actually slow the video down, okay? So we're going to cover a lot. So hold on to your hat. Okay, first, let's talk about the things to celebrate specifically for Capricorn. So starting in April and now moving through May, we have planets moving through Taurus. And whenever that happens, that is a great thing for Capricorn placements, because those Taurus placements make the 120-degree angle the best astrology angle possible. It's called a trine. I'm always chasing trines and looking to see what might be trining, just to look for those extra blessings. But it's basically about language. All of the elements that we look at in astrology speak a language. And Taurus speaks the language of Earth, which is the language that Capricorn also very well understands. Okay, so you're going to have, at some point, the sun is going to, well, for most of the month, the sun will be in Taurus. For a little while in the beginning, Venus and Mercury will also be in Taurus. And for those times, you're going to get extra blessings. And this started in April, so April through May, you've got those kisses that can bring things into manifestation. Earth energies are the creators of things that are permanent and tangible. And so you might see a lot of things gelling in a major way from these beautiful trines. Also, and this doesn't have to just be for your work or business, this can be for anything. If you're working at a building project, you're a woodworker, you have a hobby, you're trying to make gardens in your yard, you know, any kind of project that you're working on, these trines can definitely help you to boost them into reality. And remember that from the middle of March to the middle of May, we are in this glorious open time of freedom from personal planet retrogrades, which means that all signs are saying green, go, 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 go from the middle of March to the middle of May. And you can accomplish a lot, and it can make up for a lot of backward movement that we had for the early part of 2021 and all of 2020 pretty much. So that is definitely something to celebrate. You can be very, very, very productive. And your powers of concentration will be much stronger, especially towards the beginning of the month. Now, as the month wears on, it changes significantly, and we will talk about what that looks like when we get into the section of what to watch out for. But I want to stay focused on the things to celebrate for now. So among those, we do have a new moon in Taurus. So again, having a new moon, new opportunities that happen in a sign that's at a great angle for you can bring extra blessings. So in the days around May 11th, hopefully you will have some extra kisses, and any Capricorn placement can have blessings from this, but the closer you have a placement to 21 degrees, so that's basically like between, if we're going to look at the birthdays, the closer to January 11th or like January 6th or January 17th, and the closer you get into the middle there, January 11th, the more blessings. If you're watching for Capricorn rising or Capricorn moon or some other Cap placements, then this report is still for you. And for you, you want to look to the degrees. So between 16 and 27 degrees and the closer to 21 degrees, the more of the blessing potential is there for you. Okay, something else that there is to celebrate for Capricorn is that your creativity sector will be very, very, very unleashed at this time. You might come up with creative, resourceful solutions for things that had been long-standing problems, or you might just be able to let loose and have more fun. The sector of fun, when it's highlighted in your chart, can often bring hobbies, the things that you enjoy, more relaxation time, or busyness doing the things that you love. In general, Capricorn people don't like to sit and do nothing. They like to be busy doing something, even if that's something that's fun for them, right? It's a busy, a productive type of energy, and you have a lot of chances for your romantic sector to be highlighted, for your children's section to be highlighted. You also have your creative project. So if you're working on a creative project, and if that happens to be something you want to turn into a business, even better, because there's extra energy around that at this time. And your true love sector, not just your romantic sector. This is your true love sector. So if you've met your true love, you might have some extra energy there with them. Or if you haven't, you might be taking steps closer to finding that person, or they might come in. So that is very exciting. Also to celebrate, we have the 6th house accentuation. And this is something we're also going to talk about in the things to watch. But for the celebration part, you might find that you have some better organization, and I'm going to make a suggestion for that here in a minute. You might find that your daily routine gets shaken up a little bit, and you have just kind of some refreshing changes to the things that you do every day. You might also find that something notable with your pet, and that could be a positive thing. If you're looking for your forever furry or feathered friend, or other type of scales or whatever, whatever it could be there, then especially the first half of May has lots of extra energy around finding your forever friend. Now, that's not to say if the perfect animal seems to be coming in after that, that you shouldn't, that you should discount it. It's just that when you're looking for a long-term placement of an animal, sometimes those retrograde energies that are going to take over mid-month can interfere with some long-term things. But it's not an absolute, and you have to follow your own flow. But there's lots of energy around notable things for your animals. Okay, also, if you are looking to get some clarity about some health diagnostics, things like that, the first half of the month has a lot of especially open energy for diagnostics and anything having to do with trying to locate an issue or follow up on a problem that you had. It's also a fantastic time all month for having breakthroughs for anything involving your health. Things for Capricorns that tend to come up, one is stress-related issues. One also has to do with your bones and your mineralization. We can have a lot of problems come to us from issues with mineralization. The first place we think of usually is bones, but mineralization issues can affect your nervous system, can cause neurological disturbances, tingling in your feet, although those could be, indicators of other things. I've seen a lot of neurological imbalances present for myself and people that I've worked with having to do with mineral imbalances. So it might be a time to kind of get that situated. And there might be minerals involved that you're not often thinking of. People think of minerals, they think magnesium, calcium, am I getting all that stuff? They're not often thinking of potassium. So a lot of issues can be coming from a potassium imbalance. And this is a time to explore and try to get resolution. And this information might be key for this. Now, I just wanted to give you this quick precaution. Although you might need more potassium, I don't suggest capsule or pill potassium supplements unless you go over that with your doctor and they say, because sometimes they can settle in your intestines in a way and burn holes into them. They're kind of dangerous. But there are liquid supplements, which is what I use, a liquid trace mineral potassium. And again, I'm not a doctor. These are just suggestions in case you figure out that this is for you, or if there's resonance, and just ideas that you can look into and work with your qualified practitioners to see if this will work for you. But there are certain aha moments about mineralization from your bones or from your neurological system or your cardiovascular system that could come at this time, and this information could be very timely for you. Okay, so now let's talk about, we've kind of started drifting into the things to watch out for. We transitioned from, the positive health advancements into kind of maybe there are some issues coming up that you have to look out for. So let's just talk about that now. Mercury retrograde taking foot in the second half of the month means that plans and other things that seem certain might start to shift. And if you know that ahead of time, this can be a much more pleasant experience for you. If you didn't know that this was happening, you might come towards the end of May, get to that point and be like, why is everything that seems so set all seem like it's falling apart? And I'm not sure anything, and everything seems uncertain, and there's chaos and a lack of clarity. Well, that's because Mercury is going into retrograde. Also could be because the eclipses are stirring up stuff, which we'll get into much more detail about that soon. So if you just know that the first half of the month is more set, then once you get into May 16th, all the rest of May, all of June into early July is the inward and backward motion of Mercury retrograde that is telling us to take things a little bit closer to us. It doesn't mean you can't or won't travel. A lot of people will actually be traveling during Mercury retrograde, and that is fine. But gates are going to change, flights are going to change. Watch your inbox. I've already had it happen. I have to travel at the end of May, and I've already had both of my flights have their times be changed, which I anticipated, right? Because we know this, but it's, again, if you know what's going to happen, it's not as much of a surprise, and you'll be looking for it, which means you're less likely to have problems that come from it because you're expecting it. And also it just means you have to, cross your T's and dot your I's regarding travel more rigorously. Like if you're taking a road trip, just have your backup plans, and, it can be an amazing time for travel, and lots of wonderful trips are going to take place at this time, which is very exciting because travel has been very shut down. But you definitely want to know that, this lack of clarity, uncertainty, and this going with the flow rather than having everything mapped out might be a better perspective to greet the second half of the month and June with. The more you know this, the more it will be easier for you, and it can be quite enjoyable to just kind of let synchronicity and circumstance take you into something different than you expected, but it still could be amazing. Okay, let's see. Now, in general, the second half of the month is very much more Gemini full. So those beautiful trines that were occurring with the Taurus placements are starting to phase out as the month goes on. And the angle that Gemini makes for Capricorn is a little bit more awkward. And a lot of that you might see come in the form of distractedness or confusion around you, either for yourself or other people that you're having to deal with. People being flaky and not showing up. Capricorn people, despise few things more than flaky people not showing up for things, right? So you might see a lot of that going on because as the Gemini energies come in and get people distracted and ungrounded and very busy, and you might become more distracted and lose track of things more. But you might see it around you. And if you know what's going on, you can kind of say, okay, this is just what's going on right now. It will pass. But if you ask the question, like, what the heck is going on here? Why is everybody getting so flaky and distracted? It's because of those Gemini energies. So you'll have to deal with that. And there might be some element of some time feeling like it's being wasted, which again is not the favorite thing of the Capricorn. So just be aware that that could happen. It's just what's going on, and that's it. Okay, let's see. Something else about the Gemini energies is that there might be a lot of ideas and not as much capacity to pull them through. Capricorn people love to pull through ideas and make them a reality. This is a period of time where ideas might just stay ideas. And if you can be okay with that, then the time will be much easier for you. But if you try to take your usual Capricorn approach and continue to make things happen that aren't wanting to happen or wanting to stay in an idea form or aren't really gelling, then you could make yourself bonkers. So just try to avoid that. Okay, something else that's going on to watch out for is that you will have between the end of April, all of May, and the beginning of June, there's going to be Mars opposition. Okay, so all of you in that period of time will have Mars oppose your placement. And this doesn't have to be a bad thing, but because Mars is a god of war and oppositions can be challenging, you might feel like somebody is working against you. And this energy will pass pretty quickly, but it's just something antagonistic that might come up just to kind of watch out for. Now, a way to make lemonade here is if you ask yourself, does the person or entity or whatever's going on seeming against you, do they actually have any validity for what it is that they're saying? And you might have to ask yourself that in a very raw way, because your first instinct might be to say, no, this is ridiculous, and then you might miss the message. There might be something deeper. You might need to have a friend or a trusted, advisor help you look at the situation to see what it is that you might be missing and what it is that there's a message for you, that it's not just, okay, dig your feet in the ground and just hold your position. There might be something that could help you to reach a compromise. Now, this energy can also just mean you're working in tandem with somebody and your collaboration is taking on, a higher form, and that's taking some work to do that, which can be super positive and productive. But again, it's an opposition because it's kind of pulling you in two different directions. Like you're trying to work on this and maybe you have some other things going on. Okay. So one of the biggest strategies that is ongoing that you've probably heard me talk about before if you know my work, and that I'm going to be talking about again, especially for Capricorns, to make lemonade out of any challenges that come, to prevent problems for yourself, and to make yourself have more joy and ease in your life, is to adopt this idea of doing only what only you can do. Capricorns make great managers, so in that way you can really delegate. Many of you have these delegation capacities, and if you don't, they're hidden, they're latent, you can develop them. But Capricorns also tend to notice that because not everybody is as persistent and consistent as you are, that you wind up saying, okay, never mind, I'll just do it. And then you're overburdened and it's not good for you. It causes stress, it causes heaviness on your bones, it causes bone issues, joint issues, things like this, from the energy just weighing so much on you. And sometimes this can actually result in physical weight. The emotional, mental weight can come into the form of the physical weight. But this energy of weights being on you that are hard to cast off, the more you can adopt doing only what only you can do. And this is a difficult one, but I can tell you from my personal experience as, first of all, being a coach for 20 years, also as being a person with the moon in Capricorn, in the sign and house of Capricorn, Venus in Capricorn, midheaven in Capricorn, and I'm also a late Sag, so my sun is kind of cuspy to Capricorn. So I really, really have gotten this over the last years, and it's made my life so much better. And in fact, just recently I saw a report where they were talking about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, something they have in common that make them amazing productivity leaders is that they focus on doing only what only they can do, and they have other people do the other things. Now, if your business is, growing and you don't have a lot of money and you can't afford to pay people to do things, that's fine. But there are ways, if you're honest with yourself, that you could be having kids help out more, having other family members help out more, and empowering them at the same time as, really just focusing on, there are certain things that no one else can do except you. But there are a longer list of things that you're doing that other people could actually be doing. And the more you strip those away, the more you will be a very joyful, light, happy, while still being productive, and even maybe more productive, Cappy. Okay. So now let's go into understanding these eclipses, the eclipse season, talk more about what Gemini and Sag eclipses bring. And then after that, we'll go into exactly where this May eclipse is going to hit for you. The reason why I focus so much on eclipses during eclipse time is because they bring radical change, crazy trajectory shifts where you're going in one direction, then all of a sudden, almost overnight, you're heading in a completely different direction, dramatic endings, exciting new beginnings, clearing up of karma in a major way where you feel like, wow, something has occurred and now certain patterns are just behind you, and brand new ways of being open up. It's a very exciting time. It can also be a very stressful time, and some of the changes that come are not welcome. some of the changes that come are things that you've been trying to manifest for sometimes your whole life. And so it's just a very, very powerful time of extreme energies. The principle in physics that talks about matter never being created nor destroyed, that it simply changes form, is very evident at eclipse time. And we can see it happening in some common things, like, for instance, a grandparent passes away and a grandchild is born, or, something notable goes on like that type of thing. Somebody retires, but then they start their post-retirement, new project. And it's like the energy of what is removed doesn't leave. It just changes into this other form in this brilliant new beginning. And so you will either be a person who is having that happen in this, especially May, June time frame, or you'll be a person who's watching people around you have crazy things going on, and in some cases holding space for them, because it can be, even positive changes can be pretty stressful or a lot to take in as you're going through a major transition. And a lot of times, if you're not the person going through that change, you're holding space for the other person, meaning you're there for them, you're holding their hand through it, or you're assisting them in some way. You can usually tell if you're going to be the person who's going through the changes or the person holding the space by the degree to which the sign and degree of the eclipse hits your personal planets. But since we have so many personal planets, we can't do that justice in general readings, but we can talk about some of that, which I tend to do, in the horoscopes. But some people go through both of it, where they're holding space for other people who are going through a lot, and they themselves are going through a lot of change. Okay, so those are some must knows. Now, just to give you a little perspective about this particular eclipse cycle, the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle. The last time we had this eclipse cycle was March 2011 through August 2012. And now it started again on May 2020 through January 2022. So it doesn't mean that everything that happened between March 2011 and August 2012 will occur again. It means that the things that occurred in that time that were related to the signs or houses that were accented for you are going to be themes that come up again. If something bad happened then, it doesn't mean something bad will happen now. It's just the areas of life that are activated, which of course I'm talking more about in, this May and June report to tell you what areas of life will be active for you from the perspective of your sun or rising or whatever you're watching for. But in general, you can think back to that time and then notice what similar themes started to come up again, around May of 2020 that have been going on. Now, the other must know about eclipses is it's like an eclipse cycle has several periods of time where there is the eclipse season, where everything gets heated up and right in the forefront, and then it kind of fades into the backdrop. And then the eclipse season happens again every 6 months. This goes on. And then it heats up, and then it kind of fades in the backdrop. So you'll also have noticed that whatever themes have come up for you, we had things that came up May, June, July of 2020. It's kind of like a pot boiling. The eclipses in the astrological perspective are not like they are in the astronomical perspective. From the astronomical perspective, they happen at that time and they're done. From the astrological perspective, there's this cycle that's working in the backdrop, and it's working on areas of your life, and it's active, and then it fades in the backdrop and it's active. Okay, so this is how I like to see this, is that in May of last year of 2020, we had the heat go up. And then in June and July, it was like a rapid boil. And then you took the heat off, and then it kind of like faded out into the backdrop. And then in November and December of 2020, the heat was on again. But then, in January and then into February, March, April, we're like kind of down where the heat is off. Now, towards the end of April, the heat started coming on again of this 2021, and then May and June we're at a full boil again with the eclipses. Then into July it sort of starts to fade back down with the heat taken off into the backdrop, and then towards the end of the year we'll have our final Gemini Sagittarius heat up and then fade out into January 2022 rather, and it will be done and we'll be on to the next cycle. Okay, so in general, anything involving cars, transportation, including, guarding yourself while you're driving. You have to be extra careful during Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse cycles because it tends to highlight transportation. And so that can bring, accidents or things with cars or vehicles or walking or your mobility. You don't have to be afraid. It's just to become more aware. So anything having to do with how we share information and how we take in information and how we share it. Education, we can see since last year, we thought that it was COVID that did this, right? But it was really part of an astrological cycle that was bringing the topic of education and how we are getting educated into the forefront. So now we have new breakthroughs and new storylines with how we're getting educated, kids and adults. Also, how we're commuting or not commuting to work. So you can see as of, the spring of 2020, the fall for those of you down under, and now in the spring of 2021, in the fall for those of you down under, where we're back in this, okay, what are we going to do with the kids in school? Who's going to wind up staying home? What are we doing with work? People are working from home. All of this is very much related to this eclipse cycle. It's more related to this eclipse cycle than it is COVID. COVID is part of the storyline, but COVID is also astrological. And if you want more information about that, search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus and watch my very in-depth video talking about how astrological cycles are really at the source of the things that we think are related to COVID. COVID is part of the astrology, not the cause of everything that's going on. So in any case, we will see things involving international topics. Immigration has been a very hot topic since last year, especially. And we're seeing the storylines of that unfold. Anything having to do with relationships with different countries and our international business. All of that is very much related to the eclipse cycle of the Sagittarius Gemini. So all signs will be seeing those storylines heating up into the forefront. Something else that is a major must know about eclipse time and eclipses in general is that the eclipse cycle matches the North and South node transit. So for those of you who know about North and South nodes, maybe you didn't know that there was a direct relationship between the eclipse cycle and the North and South nodes. They're both running along the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is a very important area of focus in astrology because this has to do with your karma and your dharma. So the difficult patterns that you brought in, whether it was through your own soul's, behaviors and journey, or whether it was through ancestral things that have gone on in your particular DNA, or whether it's the human consciousness that's undergoing evolution, all of those karmic pieces are represented in the South Node energies. And then the North Node energies speak to our highest expression in this lifetime, our highest evolution, our dharma, what we came here to do. So eclipse time always is very rich with opportunities to clear karma, clear old patterns, clear programming that's not working, and set up new wiring, solidify the trace of a suggestion that's sitting there waiting to be actualized in the form of our highest destiny, taking steps into making those pathways be solid and more of your norm. So it's very much a time where you have opportunities to step into your highest expression in major ways and let go of major old patterns and become revitalized and have your life just opened up in ways that you've only dreamed of. So it's a very exciting time. I mean, what is there in the mind of the seeker that could be more important than stepping into your highest destiny and your highest expression this lifetime, right? And so the eclipses bring us on there, fate points, fate meetings, fate, endings, divine, destined, or fated endings, fated beginnings, things that have that sense of like, wow, this is really fated here. This is really destined. You'll feel that the energy of synchronicity moving you in these magical, ways that you can't, you have to acknowledge that, wow, obviously there's something else at work here. It's a very magical time and it's a very intense time, and your nervous system will be under duress and you'll probably need more sleep, but it may be harder to sleep and you might need more of your nervous system support and your adrenal support. And those are ways that you can really maximize this time, because the better rested you are and the more your body has the nutrition that it needs, the easier it is for you to manage what's going on. Sometimes someone will say, well, what do these supplements and these things you talk about have to do with astrology? And in my mind, they have everything to do with astrology, because if you're trying to have the best possible experience, and you know that there are intense times coming, how you experience those intense times is going to be affected tremendously by the state of your adrenals and the state of the rest of your whole nervous system and your other systems. So if they are working well and well supported, then as the stresses come, it's easier for you to step into your superhero self and have an easier experience of the challenges that come. And the challenges, like I said, could be super positive, but still challenges just the same. Like, let's say someone buys their, dream house, and that certainly could happen now. Well, the leaving of the old house, the actual move, the logistics, there's stress involved even in the best of changes. And those are the types of things that are going to be occurring in this May-June timeframe in a very big way. Okay, so now that you have a really solid understanding of the eclipse cycles, some things specific to the Gemini and Sag eclipses, let's talk in more detail about the eclipses for Capricorn. The first thing to know is that in general, this eclipse cycle from May 2020 to the beginning of 2022 has very much to do with the unseen world versus the seen world, tangibility versus intangibility, things having to do with, the mundane and the spiritual, or exalted or lesser seen, and your intuition versus your logic. So you're going to see a lot of storylines like that in process, where things that are lesser seen might start to become more real than the seen, or if you are very ethereal in nature, solidifying some things into the daily mundane reality, there's a lot going on there for you. Now, there are some other, depending on your placements, especially as the sign moves on. So the deeper you get into January born, you're picking up this 11th house, 5th house cycle. The other one is a 12th house, 6th house polarity, but you're picking up more things with the 11th house and the 5th house. And we'll be talking more about some of this stuff in June as we talk about where the June eclipse is going to hit. But things involving friendships and networks and internet-based things and your passions versus your place in the tribe, those kind of storylines can be coming up for any Capricorn, but especially as you move later into the sign. So, whether it's you're watching for Capricorn rising or your moon or sun, it doesn't matter. But for this particular lunar eclipse at 6 degrees of Sagittarius on May 26th, which you will be starting to feel really strongly in April and will, shadow into June and into even July, is going to be for either the 12th or 11th house, depending on where you are. Okay, so now I'm going to make some resource recommendations. I used to roll all of this into each video, each eclipse month, but they got really long, and you can see we're already running longer here because of the other eclipse details. So for all Capricorn placements, I recommend that you search for Annie Botticelli, Eclipses in Sagittarius. You can also find the whole eclipse series on my homepage on YouTube. Okay, and so watch the Eclipses in Sag one. All Capricorns, watch the Eclipses in Gemini one, because the Gemini eclipse that's in June, you will be starting to feel that in May as well. And you might even start to feel those themes sooner. Okay, so that's homework for all of you to better understand. I went into some details, but I have whole videos on those, so you'll want to go into those. Now, all Capricorns also watch my video for eclipses in Aquarius. So Annie Botticelli, Eclipses in Aquarius, because even those of you who are going to officially have this eclipse in the 12th house, which we'll talk about that in a second, even those of you who are going to have it there, it's so close to the line of the 11th house that this Aquarius energy is going to be, have a very strong chance of happening. So all Cappies, watch the eclipses in Aquarius. Now, there's one more thing to watch, and that's only for some of you. Those of you who are in the December born, the first, early January time frame, or 0 through like 11 or so degrees, you'll want to watch the Eclipses in Pisces video as well, because your 12th house is going to be accentuated, and that's going to be some things extra specific for you all in those placements. Okay, so it's a wild time ahead, lots of changes for many people. If you're not one of the ones experiencing the big changes, then you'll definitely be seeing people go through things around you, and there's a chance to clear tons of karma and a chance to step onto your highest destiny in magical ways. If you would like even more information on how you can maximize the starry possibilities, click on the little arrow underneath the video that says more, and that little arrow click will reveal all the notes below the video. Most of the time that I spend working is spent doing free offerings, and you can see what all those are and get the links directly to them in the notes below the video. First thing to do is go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. Not only will you get my happy scopes, a sneak peek into the highlights of all of the months of 2021. Right now, you can see all of that immediately, but you'll also get a more detailed overview of each month, 1 month early, the sweet and salty dates of the aspects, what you can expect from them, and a general write-up of the month ahead delivered into your inbox 1 month early. You also get a free sign-on bonus called Shine, which is my virtual 28-day coaching program. And this is very, very, very detailed, and it can really help support you in your conscious evolution and breaking out of old patterns. So you get all of that when you sign up at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll see it right on the front page. It'll say, "Hi, friend," and then it'll have space for your name and email address. The next thing to make sure to do is go to my school, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. It's Luminous Life Multiversity, and I've got free courses there, including one to help you ramp up your abundance called Unleash Your Money Magnet. You can also see my paid courses there, including my crazy comprehensive astrology program called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course. If you'd like to do astrology as part or all of your professional offering, or just become adept enough for your own process or to help other people, you will love, love, love this course, especially if you resonate with my work. And you can see that at lumelife.com, and plus the other courses there. Also, go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. That's my other beautiful website where I and a few amazing up-and-coming bloggers that I have selected to be part of this with me are giving you amazing offerings every month, and a lot of it is astrology kissed. So herbal teas for the signs and the sun's movement, hypnosis, healing frequencies for each sign. You'll love this site. It's called cozybysweetstarlight.com. Then also, don't forget about my books. I write books as well. I've got a book called Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. And this is a beautiful book of prayers and affirmations that you can use over a moon cycle or however you're drawn to use it. Then my very, very in-depth book called Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. And it does exactly that. So it's a very detailed, long, comprehensive book to help you align with the starry rhythms. And another very exciting thing that I want to share this month is it's the month of my boy, Seamus. We call him Seamus Blue Moon. It's his birthday in May, and he is having some offerings that are starting to come out. So you can see some work of his artwork in the link below. In the future, you will see him teaching courses at my school. He's working on a course now. So he's also a rune master, an amazing reader of runes. So you'll start to see more by him coming soon. And so this is his beautiful launch into the public. So you can check out some of his artwork in the link below in the More button. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.